Hello, world history students. This is Mrs. Politsky, and I have your notes for Chapter 13, Section 5, Power of the Church. And as we go along here, I do have an additional little segment here of notes that you need to jot down. You're probably going to need some paper for that. So if you can fill it in on the margins or on the backside, that certainly would work out. So the Pope, for the most part, is the spiritual, political, and social leader of Western Europe and was that leader after the Roman Empire lost power around the AD 400s. The Mass at that time was the church ritual said in Latin, during which the Eucharist was shared. Papal power grew in Europe due to the Pope becoming involved in governing and ruling territories, raising armies, and retaining power to name bishops, and could actually excommunicate kings. Bishops made most of the decisions for the church during the early Middle Ages, mostly in terms of the local diocese and such. But some things changed, and we're going to talk about one of the guys who was probably one of the most influential popes of the Middle Ages. First thing I want to mention, when we talk about a schism is a split, and the Roman Catholic Church has had some different times when we've had schisms, but at the time of the Middle Ages, the schism kind of leads to some other issues that are going to come back to haunt us as we get into the Renaissance and the beginning of the Reformation. So, a split or a schism in the Catholic Church occurred when bishops of Constantinople refused to accept Pope Gregory VII's authority over their bishops. Pope Gregory VII excommunicated him, being the Holy Roman Emperor, a man named Henry IV, leading to the formation of the Orthodox Church. One of the things I want to mention are some of the reforms, and these are some of the things that you're going to need to jot down. Under Pope Gregory VII, the church, for the most part, really kind of reformed the whole role of papacy, and so only the Pope at that point in time could depose of or reinstate or actually appoint bishops. Before this period of time, there had been leaders of the Holy Roman Empire that had actually been appointing people as bishops, and some of these were individuals who were never really priests to begin with. Along with that, the Pope's authority extended over rulers, so it was up to the Pope to determine whether or not certain rulers were fit to rule, and in some cases, they could basically question the legitimacy of the power of certain monarchs. Along with that, Gregory was a stickler for the rules, and for a time, rules like celibacy for the clergy had not necessarily been fully enforced. Upon becoming Pope, Pope Gregory VII enforced these rules, and they have been enforced kind of as strictly ever since. Along with that, he eliminated the practice of secular rulers, meaning like your kings and queens and such, giving away church jobs or positions of leadership, meaning like if a king had a nephew that he thought would make a great bishop, they would appoint him a bishop, and they would get some kind of favor. The idea is that these jobs were not for sale. And then finally, he ordained the election of the Pope through the practice of the College of Cardinals. Rather than a ruler who had no authority over the church picking who would become the Pope, basically what Gregory wanted were fellow cardinals to do the selection process. So, Pope Gregory VII gained authority over the Holy Roman Emperor when he excommunicated Henry VII and called for his overthrow. What's interesting is Henry IV is going to be excommunicated twice. He's going to basically do penance and do so in a very public way, and he's going to come back and he's going to be reinstated, and then he's going to do something to offend, and he's going to be excommunicated again. So before Gregory the seventh, kings were choosing our religious leaders. This practice ended with Gregory the Seventh. Monasteries in the Middle Ages adopted stricter rules. Monks stayed out of politics, and they simplified their lives. The Pope, bishops, and priests were considered to be secular clergy, while monks and nuns formed what we call the regular clergy. These are people who belong to certain religious orders. The Franciscans and the Dominicans were really well educated friars who lived a life of poverty and preaching. When we talk about St. Francis or St. Dominic, these were kind of the epitome of uh, living a life of sacrifice, in a sense. Thank you very much.